Okay, so for today, we are going to be working on upper body, kind of upper back, thoracic, and shoulder type of mobility. With any of this stuff, you don't need any props for today's, but if you wanted to have like a PVC pipe on hand to be working through range of motion through your shoulders and stuff, that's totally fine in between. But we'll hopefully be able to go through all this stuff together today. There's fewer moves with a lot more time spent in the move, holding, doing the breaths. What I want to work on is opening up. We've been sitting at home a lot. We've been doing the push-up challenges, so we're tight through the pecs and through the rib cage. So those being able to move and breathe through that part of our belly allows us to actually have better postural muscles, but they also in turn get really closed down and pull and lock down our ability for our back to move and our shoulders to have stability when we're sitting at desks all day, sitting on our couch or collapsed down working from home, because we start to do what's called inspiratory breathing, where we use our shoulders and lift so it can pull on our neck, pull on our shoulders, and it doesn't actually make our ribs and our mid-back move as much. So that's going to be my focus for today. If you guys ever want to use this as a screening thing and put yourself through it at a later date, that'll work out great. But otherwise, those of you guys that are on today, we have Zeke, Catherine, and Angie. We're going to go through it all together in real time. That way you guys get time to spend in it. So to start with, what we're going to do is do with the first two different kinds of moves that we go through. We're going to do a little bit of a screening where you're just checking yourself, and then we'll retest it at the end of the move. So you can kind of just see how it's changed, what one side feels like compared to the other. I'm sure if Sheridan watches this later, she's going to love it because she's been working so much on her shoulder stuff and has been noticing a different side to side. So I'm curious to see what you guys that are on right now feel. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go for shoulder range of motion. Is we're going to check just basic shoulder mobility and our ability to move through that. And then we're going to address doing the actual mid-back and rib cage and see how that then affects our ability to do the shoulder range part. So Zeke, you did this with me before. We're just going to walk through it quick. So you're going to go reach like you're trying to scratch the back of your neck, but you're going to be reaching across to the other trying to reach across to the other top of the shoulder blade. Your goal is to not have to have your head like bend way far forward in order to do it, or have to use the other arm to reach back. Sometimes we only get to here on the same side. We really want to try to aim towards the top of that shoulder blade on the other side. So I just kind of want to see, picking one side, just see what it feels like, see how tight it feels, see if it's difficult, see if your head has to crane forward to do it, right? Or how much you maybe have to arch back to do it. Go ahead and switch sides now. Let's see what that side feels like to you. Again, reaching across to the other shoulder blade. You might feel, some of you might feel like you're having to crane your head a little more on this side, or that you're tighter in the tricep, whatever. But just notice kind of the feeling with those. Okay, I'm not going to talk through this one with each of you like I did with Zeke, but just notice those, make mental note because we're going to compare them later. Next one you're going to do, take that first arm again, and you're going to go up and around. And I want you to think about as you go up and around, you're going towards this side right here. Notice I don't reach it with this hand, if you guys can see. We're trying to get up towards the opposite bottom of the shoulder blade on the left when we're using our right, or the right when we're using our left. And I only get to about here. I also, in doing it, feel a lot of tension in the front, right, for me, and I have to kind of like shimmy it up to even get close, and I still don't get it, right? So that's just something to notice with how you got there and what it feels like when you're there, if you've even made it, okay? Then go ahead and switch and do the other side so as to be able to see. So for this one, I was able to get to that actual part that I accomplished, but in order to do it, I still kind of had to walk myself up, right? Or I would have had to arch, and then I wouldn't have had to walk at all, but I would have had to arch my low back in order to get there. So pay attention to how that feels again in the front, how it felt to get there, okay? If it's painful, don't push it to try and get to that end spot. Notice that it's painful and only about how far you can get. We're going to see if we can improve that throughout some of this. So we'll start out with affecting our mid-spine in our mid-back and upper back, and it's a little bit of the rib cage movement, because a lot of times if the rib cage and everything's allowed to move and bend and flex freely, then the shoulder blades will actually be allowed. Your body will let them move as well. So we're going to do that first. We're going to retest the shoulders and see, and then if there's a change or not, and then we'll do a couple of shoulder range of motion things and some shoulder stability things in a side plank rotation, and we'll check them again and see which ones help the most. That'll give you a chance when you're you're doing any of this flow or this kind of self-mobility assessment throughout your day of, is it your back and your ribs and your breathing that's affecting your tightness in your shoulders and upper body and neck? Or is it actually some shoulder stiffness stuff and you should maybe do some shoulder specific stretching, right? Oh, look at LaToya. I love it. Sorry, everyone enjoy LaToya. I just feel like we've all missed her in person. Okay, thanks for that, Zeke. Okay, so the first one, you guys are gonna go ahead. We're gonna actually get into some stretching here now. Okay, so putting hands up over your head, you can interlace your fingers if you want. If you're someone who's particularly tight and interlacing your fingers, cranes on your neck, then just touch them to the side of your head. Okay, so that's fine. And then what you're gonna do is, if you can be either sitting on a chair or if you're on the ground, I want you to kind of separate your legs out so that you have a knee to aim towards, but also it prevents you from twisting the whole body. I want it to be like this stays still and only up and through the back is twisting from here up. I don't want it to be your hips going with you. Cool. So from here, again, if this is gonna be too much time spent kneeling in this position, go ahead and sit on a chair, that's fine. You're gonna turn, let's start out with a little bit of extension. You're gonna extend a little bit, okay? And then you're gonna turn and then stop wherever it first stops. Don't push past that. Don't try to crane and use your shoulders. Don't take your elbow further than anything. It's just where that initial stop point is, okay? From here, tip back a little bit again. While you're there, see if you can get a little further. Probably not a ton without coming back upright, and then go back to center. Okay, so this is just checking what one side feels like. So probably not super far. I know I don't feel like I go very far. Some of you might be like, yeah, I don't know what to expect. Hi, LaToya. And then let's go ahead and extend back a little bit, turn to the other way, and notice if there's a difference in how much further you could go one side to the other. You can just kind of pay attention to that, self-assess. Extend a little bit further and see if you can go a little bit more. Okay, so especially if you've been sitting all day, go ahead and come back to center. If you've been sitting all day, you can shake your shoulders out. They're probably a little bit tired. One, I like doing that because it's making you hold your arms up overhead because they've been down probably all morning. But also, two, it lets you see if one side's way different than the other, or just if you can't twist much at all, period. Shows that we're lacking some movement. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is treat that, right? We're gonna do a mobility where we use our breath to loosen every single individual muscle that's in between your rib cage, so that if that can move and bend and grow, and your breath and your full lung capacity is getting used instead of just what's up here in the neck, it actually allows your spine to then move and bend and grow, and therefore anything coming out from that. So you're gonna go hands back on your head. Let's go the first direction you went. You're gonna turn to that first stop point, no extension on this one, just turn to that first stopping point, and then you're gonna tip the elbow that's in front towards that opposite knee. Now notice when I did it, I tried to tip in place. I didn't lean and bend like I'm doing a hinge to the knee. I'm just doing more of an oblique crunch in that range of motion. From there, it should feel tight in that lower part of your belly and your side. And then the other side by your armpit and your lat should feel like it's stretching a little bit. Again, don't crane on your neck. I want you to do 3 big giant breaths where you're trying to fill the big space that you've created, because it won't be able to fill the lower belly because it's all crinched and cramped, but we want to actually push that into that lung that we're opening up. What it's going to do, keep those big breaths in and all the way out and in and all the way out, is you're going to really push that inspiration so that you're almost like you're trying to send the air out the side of your ribs that you're actually opening. Okay, now come back up to the center. Once you've done 3, you might have done 5 breaths. If they felt like they had to be shallower, that's fine. And you're going to turn that same direction again. This time you should feel like you got a little further without as much effort. And you're going to tip again. Again, it's more of a crunch. Your elbow should be further into that turn. And you're gonna do those big, giant breaths. Again, you might feel a little lightheaded doing this. This is why we're either sitting or kneeling or near the ground. And it's because you're fighting really hard to get that oxygen in, because you're cramping down one side of your lungs. Keep those big breaths going with purpose. Giant, big, fill up every space you feel like you have available to you without coming out of that position at least 3 times. Good. Let's go for one more big one. If you did more than 3, that's great. The more the merrier, right? Because it's just going to allow that to open up more. Sit back up and straight. And we're going to do one more turn that same direction. You should feel like you get even further this time, right? And whether you feel further or not, it should also just feel less tight by the time you get to the end. Go ahead and get into that tip. Again, if your shoulders are feeling it, recognize that. realize that you're spending time using them and holding them up in a position that's not under full stretch, but a place that we should be able to have some endurance to hold them up. So go ahead and do 3 big, deep breaths in that one again. Don't try to crane on your neck, but still allow those shoulders to have to work, get a little bit heated, and realize how fatigued they are when you're being forced to do range of motion in a different part of your body. Good, go ahead and come up out of it and face forward. Rest your arms for a second, guys, because I know we don't spend enough time with them up and overhead, but it's a good way to get that. Move through the neck if you need to too, if you felt like it was getting a little sore, a little crampy, okay? Now, you're gonna do the same thing the other side. And this is the funnest part because you'll realize how much further you got by the 3rd round on that last side when you then go to do the other side and you stop way sooner. So it's kind of just a fun self-assessment. You're bringing awareness to your body and where you're personally tight every individual day. So hands back up overhead, we're getting the shoulder time in, and then legs a little wider. Okay, again, if you need to switch to a chair because your legs are just feeling it, feet are feeling it, or kneeling is just too hard, that's fine. Go ahead and turn the other way. So you'll feel like you stop probably pretty quick compared to where you ended on the last side. Go ahead and tip towards that front knee with the front elbow. Again, it's kind of like I'm a little teapot status. It's just a crunch. It's not hinging through the low back. That's going to aggravate your low back. This is just about opening up those upper ribs. Big breath out that side, like you're really trying to fill it 3 to 5 times. Take some big breaths for me. Trying to stay in that turn. One more big one. And then up and face center again. Okay, now go ahead and turn that side again. Your arms and shoulders are feeling it. Good, we're getting some work in. This is gonna help with the mobility as well. Big breaths. Go ahead and get that tip in there. 3 more breaths. I'll let you guys do it on your time. I'm just going to kind of watch you guys a little bit just so I'm taking inventory. Since you took the time to come on the link today, I'm going to just watch if there's anything I see to correct. Good. Deep breaths. Go. 1 more big breath for me. Should have had enough time to get a few in. And then sit upright again. Good. And then last one. Big turn. Try to get as far as you can on this one. And then tip. And you might notice that maybe the other side opened up better throughout all of these. Maybe one side, if it's naturally a tighter side for you, needs more breaths or bigger breaths per rotation. Maybe that just tells you the imbalance one side to the other, that it doesn't open up quite as much. It also could be, okay, well, we got the rib part moving, I'm still limited. Let's see what happens when I actually do the shoulder range of motion. 1 more big breath for me, guys. And then square off into the center, put those arms down. Okay, now the coolest part is a lot of times when I'll have people do this in clinic is they'll do it one way, then they go through the other way, and they're afraid that they've then lost their mobility back the other way because they stretched the one way. So real quick, 1 more assessment, put your hands up over your head and just do that turn each way. Nice and slow, but see how far you get each direction. You're comparing it to when you did it at the beginning, right? To how far or how less tight it feels that you do at the end, right? So going the other way too. And then notice if there's one side that still feels pretty tight compared to the other, or that didn't gain as much from the beginning. So real quick, let's take a pause. Did anybody notice anything either really awesome or really like, wow, one side worked, the other side didn't do anything? Catherine, how about you?
I'm tighter on the left and I got lightheaded big time.
Yeah, so forcing yourself to take those big, deep breaths that we tend to do up here, trying to not get lightheaded because we don't actually use and engage those muscles enough throughout our day. We breathe a lot through our upper chest and shoulders. When we're forced to actually slow down and try to get full breaths in, our body's like, I don't know what I'm doing with this, right? So if you also notice yourself yawning a lot throughout the day, it's not because you're tired necessarily. That's a misunderstanding a lot of times. It's because you haven't been taking full breaths and your body's trying to refill that full lung volume that it has available in store for while you're doing activities throughout your day. So when we're sitting a lot, we breathe and we're like, man, why am I so tired? I haven't done anything today. It's because you haven't done anything today. So just something to think about, right, is getting that full breath and taking this time to open up those rib cages. Anyone else notice anything? Zeke, I know the last time we did it, you had kind of a cramping in your shoulders. Did you notice that at all today, or did you notice a difference again?
It was definitely like less cramping. The first time, but when I went to the second round, I didn't feel any cramping at all, which is good.
Sweet. Cool. I was just curious on that one. And then Angie, yours looked pretty good. Did you notice one side looked like, it could have been the angle I'm at, but it looked like one side didn't get as much gain throughout that move as the other side.
Yeah, I definitely could move more to the right than to the left.
Yeah, which could, with Angie, could have anything to do with her hips or that sling up to one of the shoulders or her low back, any part of it. But it's just noticing that, breaking it down piece by piece of, if I assess one part and stretch and mobilize one part, that doesn't mean all parts get stretched, right? There might be something else playing into it. So Angie would be a good example of someone who has great flexibility, but might not always have mobility in certain parts because of injuries, or her body's kind of locking down against the fact that she's so flexible, right? So there's just different things to notice. Was there any pain in either side, Angie?
No, but I'm like always way tighter on the left side, so I'm not surprised that I couldn't go on that side.
Yeah, so it's stuck with kind of that pattern for you. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's just something to think about, guys, with doing, thanks, Angie, with doing those types of things, is noticing how those get better throughout, like some of your home workouts we're having to do, or like when you go into lifts. If you notice it affects your lifts, maybe that pattern is a thing and something you should address. And you can reach out again to Angie, Greg, me, whatever, like, hey, ideas, tips, tricks on certain things that I'm struggling with. Don't be afraid to do that. Okay, so now we're going to do, since we just did that, let's retest the shoulder one, right? All we did was hold our shoulders here. We didn't stretch our triceps. We didn't stretch through our shoulder girdle, nothing. Let's retest. If you notice that you're better able to hit the top of that shoulder blade, or less cramping, or maybe the neck comes down less, or you don't have to arch as much, maybe you're able to sit up straight, or it might just not feel as tight. Go ahead and switch the other side too, and just notice. I only even did half of them with you guys as I talked through it, and I already noticed that I'm able to sit upright more for my left arm to reach. Okay, so pay attention to those ones. And then the other one, again, is the going back. So my hope on this one is you guys might notice if you had to crawl up the back, or if you had to arch really big to get there, you might be able to reach more. So I noticed, again, I didn't do the full thing with you guys, but I actually feel less tension up here, which could likely be from spending time in an open position that now it doesn't feel so dang tight when I try to reach around and underneath. So do one side and then try the other. Catherine, I can see you kind of grabbing the front of that shoulder, so you must feel it. This time I was able to actually reach on this side, which I wasn't last time. I got down to like here. So little things like that, that we didn't even do anything for the shoulder other than hold them upright, and we might have noticed a difference. Did anyone notice like a big difference, or less pain or more pain? Just curious. Again, it doesn't have to be answered, but if anyone noticed something, throw it out.
It's definitely easier this time.
Yeah, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, just little things that you can realize. We didn't even touch our shoulders. Didn't even do anything to stretch them or mobilize them, quote unquote, and we might have gotten a better input from it. So just something to notice with that. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to assess or not assess, but address the shoulders. We're going to go through range of motion with the shoulders. Angie, you might be tall enough through the torso, that's fine. But for example, if you guys are have really long arms and are hitting the ground, you can always come up to half kneeling, or you can stand. I'm going to kneel so that you guys can see the full range, and I barely sweep this one because when I tried to stand back a ways to show Zeke on Thursday, it was harder to see. And I want you guys to be able to see what my hand is doing. Okay, so we're literally just taking it through the maximum end range of motion for just this shoulder joint right here. It's your GH joint, just this girdle. You're going to start with your thumb down and back. So you're rotated in. This is internal rotation of just your shoulder joint. From here, you're going to try and bring it out and in front of you, like you're trying, almost like you're kind of stretching it across, but without help. But you're trying to hold it in as tight as you can. I'm skimming my nose almost, coming up and over. As I get to the top, my hand then opens up. So now my thumb goes to reaching back, so I get some external rotation. And I reach as far back as I can. And it's okay if you take a stretch through here. I'm okay if you have it coming through the shoulder all the way down into the rib cage, and then rotate it back down and around in internal rotation. So back up again, as big of a circle as you can make, right? Skimming everything, reaching back and around, right? So my thumb's back again, coming up and through, trying to make a big giant circle. At the top, I turn palm up to the sky, reaching back. I let my rib cage open. I let my back arch, whatever you need to do. I want full range of motion because we're trying to get that full girdle. We're going to go 2 more times. So 4 total times, as big as you can. I already feel some fatigue in my shoulder. My pec's actually working really hard just to try and get the full range, right? So we're not just going through what's comfortable. We're trying to get as big of a circle end range as we can. Good. And then relax. Okay. We're going to do that on the other side. Then we'll go back and do it the other direction. Okay. So it seems really simple. People tell each other to do arm circles and they do this. right? But this one that actually takes the full range of motion of that, just the humerus bone in the joint of your shoulder, is a really good time and attention thing to try, okay? So again, thumbs down and back, right here. Can you guys see from this? Cool. Okay, so thumbs down and back, palms facing out, away from my body. I'm gonna bring it in and across. Again, it's almost like I'm bringing it across my body, but I'm doing it with my muscles and not my other hand to assist. Up and open, I reach the hand, so now my palm is up towards the sky, thumbs back, and reaching as far back. Again, if I can pull up and through that rib cage, that's fine to get the biggest movement I can. And then I turn it back into internal rotation, so thumb is back again. Good. Keep going. We're gonna do 4 total. It can seem really simple, but I'm trying to get the biggest range of motion, arms straight, reaching open, letting my chest and my shoulder girdle all come with it. And doing that, paying attention to that turn of the hand. Last one. For me, open hand up to the top, because that affects your rotator cuff and all those muscles that are involved in just rotating through that joint. Okay, when you're done, go back to the other side. This time you're gonna go backwards. So we came in going up first. So now thumbs pointing back. We're gonna go backwards, open it up. Again, trying to reach back and over, and then turn the thumb down by the time you cross your ear. And you're squeezing through kind of your chest, and then opening it up again and reaching. 2 more times. Open it up, reach back, stretch towards the sky, turn so that thumbs down. Good, and up. If you're not doing it perfect, it's kind of a weird one, that's okay. It seems really simple, but it actually makes a big difference. Good, finish that one out, switch sides. So again, thumbs down, we go in the direction of the thumb this time, so going backwards first. So going here, open the hand up so you get this big reach as high as you can up to the sky. Turn the thumb in again. Good, and then up and open to the sky. And then we get towards the nose and we turn the hand down again. We're trying to make this as big as we can. Reaching high. And one more. Up and open. And then turning down. Right, so super simple. Super simple. It's a different than just going over and back with a PVC pipe. Okay, it's a little bit more similar to an extreme take on doing like the around the world, right? But with this one, we stay straight. We only hit this part, and it's really small, fine-tuned use of your rotator cuff muscles, some traps, some lat, and letting the whole shoulder complex work together. Now I want you guys, last time I promised I'm gonna make you do this one, I want you guys to retest this guy again. And just see, once we did just going through shoulder range of motion, just making the shoulder feel like it was personally put through its range of motion, how does it feel to go up and over with each side? I feel zero tightness or tension in my triceps anymore, which is where I was still feeling it last time. And then I'm gonna go up and under. Aha, I'm able to hit this time without a lot of arching. I didn't have to crawl at all. And then for me, my other side, I got even higher, and I now don't feel any tension in the front, which is where I was still feeling last time, and I'm sitting more level and less arch. So again, not perfect, but little ways to address each individual piece. Anybody notice a big difference from that one? Or like no pain where they had pain before?
Yeah, I didn't have to walk my hand up my back this time. I could
Right.
just touch my shoulder blade easily.
Right, so your body actually was able to cue those little muscles that pull your shoulder into rotation, which is rotation or rotation, because you made it activate all the way through its potential. You basically drew attention to it of, hey, wake up, I need you to move my arm for me. And so then when you went to go do a global movement like this, those muscles were actually on and ready so they could help you. So that's kind of what that means, is that you were able to fire muscles to help you get that position instead of stretch them to get there or walk up using cheater muscles to get to the same end goal. So nice, I love it. Okay, so that's just something to think about, guys, when you're working through. And again, this is more of a self-screen and assessment today, because it's stuff that we don't pay attention to, and we're going to get hit with a lot with having to work from home, and a lot of people do in general with working and sitting at desks. So keep working on these types. Last one we're going to do 2 different parts to it. We're going to do repeat of it. We only have to go through it once. Zeke, when we did it, we're going to go through it 2 times together. It's just a rotation through a plank or kneeling plank into a side plank, but it's more for mobility where you're starting to stabilize, but it's not like the hardest plank you've ever done. And then we'll get up and stretch through the thoracic spine, and then we'll do it again. And each time you should feel like you're able to get a little bit deeper in the stretch of the thoracics because you're working to make your shoulders stabilize while you do your activity. So then when you go and do your stretch, your body lets you stretch into it further because your shoulders have been helping it do some of the work. Okay, if none of this makes sense to any of you, don't worry about it. Just do it and you'll feel a benefit, okay? If you're someone who likes to nerd out about it with like me, this is why I'm offering some of the information behind it. So you're gonna start out just in your regular plank. You can do it kneeling, okay? But you can do it as a regular plank. Ooh, I've been kneeling a bit. I gotta stretch out my calves. Sorry guys, 2 seconds, or else I'm gonna slip and slide. Okay, so I'm up into a plank. I put my feet a little bit staggered. They don't need to be right next to each other because I want you to be able to roll into your actual stability. So like this, normally when we do side plank, we try to stack them. That's not what today's goal is, okay? So go ahead and give yourself that stability. You're gonna roll up, push up through the shoulder towards the sky, reaching up. And I want you to reach back. Like try to reach with your thumb, like you're really trying to twist in the plank, okay? And then come back down, okay? Then you're gonna go to the other side, pushing up and out through it, just like we would in like a Turkish get-up. Let yourself roll. Arm reaches up, look up to it, watch and follow that thumb because your neck's a big part of your stability and your mobility in your shoulders, and back down. If you need to, I'm going to demo this one on a knee. If you need to, put your knees down and you can rotate and you can actually come up. So what I'm doing, you guys can see this way. So I'm going to put my feet together, my knees wide, so that then when I kind of come up into that side plank, I roll up so that I have this kind of stable support and I reach up and behind because it's really hard to keep a knee behind and do that rotation. Okay, so you can play around with that one. If you need to do it on a knee, that's totally fine for the side plank. Going back and forth a couple times. Let's say 5 per side. Since you guys probably move in faster than me, we'll say you've done 3 each side. So let's do 2 more. So 1 to that side, 1 to the other side. Again, really think about pushing up and twisting through. It's not about being the prettiest, most hard plank. It's more about being the nice, big, open plank. Good, and then 1 more to the last side. Good, okay, relax. And then I'm gonna have you guys walk to a wall, or if you need to do a counter top, that's fine. See if you guys can see me. So this is a take kind of on a down dog, right? When I do a down dog though, what you can do for this, when I do a down dog, because I'm so tight through my hips and my hamstrings and everything else, I can't really sink into my upper back because I'm too busy trying to push myself in to stretching my low back. So what I like to do is offload the fact that you have to hold yourself up and make it all about your upper back and shoulders. So I'll come to a wall in kind of a hip hinge position so that they aren't a factor. And I'll walk my hands down the wall as much as I can. And then I'm gonna sink in and through, really trying to push my chest to the ground, my head through, stretch my arms so they're straight, and really sink in. And I feel that between my shoulder blades, down towards my bra line. Everyone's a little different, but really give yourself some big breaths, maybe like about 5 or 6 kind of push and holds for like 1, 2, 3. Back up a little, down, 1, 2, 3. Really trying to breathe and push through that position. And then after you've done, like I said, like 5 or 6 of those, kind of rocks back and through, pushing down and in. Good, I'm just kind of peeking at you guys. Catherine, walk your hands up a little bit more. But then really think about straightening those arms and dropping your chest to the ground from there. Does that feel like a little more of a stretch? Yeah, I see more sink through the upper back. Good. When you guys are done with that, go ahead and come back up. And we're going to go back to doing the side planks one more time. Okay, so we'll do this whole thing one more time. just to get a little bit more stretch. The more stable our shoulders are, the more we force them to be turned on, and our stabilizers through our core are first to be turned on, which is why we're doing the plank as an option. The more we're able to then let go and sink through that upper back. So let's do the planks one more time. We'll do 5 to each side. Again, you can do it full or kneeling. These will be our last moves for the day. So up and rotating up and open. Really stretching up and through towards the ceiling, pushing up and through that bottom one. Take the head with you. Switch sides if you haven't already. Up and through. Celebrity guest Luke walking in the background. I don't know if you guys can see him. Keep going. Good. Switch sides again. Good. Pushing up and out, really trying to stretch. You should feel like you can actually probably stabilize or turn a little bit better. Maybe after doing that stretch through the thoracics. Keep switching. I've done 3 per side. If you guys are ahead of me, that's fine. If you get done with your 5 per side and want to make your way back to the wall, you can do that. I've got 1 more each direction. If I counted right, which you probably didn't. Good. Should be finishing up and make your way back to that wall. And again, just 5 times or so of kind of pushing down and in, really contracting, trying to push that chest through, head through. And then you can relax again and do it 4 more times, right? If you feel like you can challenge yourself and stand up through the hamstrings a little more, that's fine too. Whatever you want to do to push through it. Nice. All right, guys. Go ahead and finish up wherever you're at. So I would love just some input. If you want to retest your shoulders one more time, you can. If you were someone that still had a pull or a tweak or couldn't hit something and you want to retest, you totally can. See if stability was the big game changer for you in your shoulders. But either way, it should feel like you're able to kind of reach up and back a little easier. You could probably, after this point, turn a little further if you try that one again. It's just fun to kind of like test ourselves sometimes, especially when we don't have certain workouts or a coach there to like make us do tests to show us where we're at. Sometimes it's nice to like see after we did some mobility stuff. Nice, Zeke, you got pretty far. Very nice. Just to see kind of how our twists are, how the pull is. Sometimes we might not get much further range of motion. Sometimes that's even like a spinal segment thing that maybe you have some bony stops or some adhesions that just would need to actually get worked through to take you that last bit. Like Angie mentioned, she's always kind of tight to her left. She might have a lot of structural changes that are kind of occurring because of that chronic difference, whether it be muscles being a little bit overbuilt or tight on one side, or her spine just is a little bit more locked up one way or the other. That happens too and can get you the last bit. But hopefully, regardless, if you still have that same stop point, it feels easier to get there, or not as tight, or like Zeke with his shoulder, it wasn't cramping as much, even though he kind of got to the same position, right? So when he would do this the first day that we did this, he just holding his arm up here, he'd get a cramp, and now he doesn't, right? So those kinds of things are stuff to look at. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you guys have any questions or things that you want to offer or contribute for people that might watch the recording later, if not, no worries. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. Catherine, unless you're going to share your fritters, I don't want to hear any more about them.
I'll have to buy some drones and start sending them out.
Yeah, you can make a new business.
That's right. Thank you. This was really helpful.
Yeah, good. It was a little bit more, I know Zeke did it with me on Tuesday, and it was a little bit more geared towards us having to sit at home versus all about our workouts. So I hope that was helpful, because I know that you guys are getting a lot of info from Angie and Greg that's making working out way more fun and easier to do at home than if you're by yourself. So I wanted to offer something that was maybe more geared around some of the sitting that we have to do this week. And then we'll focus next week again on if anyone says there's certain things they want, or I'll focus again based on kind of looking at the workouts, what they've been, what might be sore, and what we could stand a chance at stretching out. Cool. All right. Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah, have a
Austin.
good rest of your day, guys.